Hello, my name is SFA Dumas, and today we will be talking about saturated fatty acids and inflammation. So saturated fat is a type of fat which contains all single bonds on the hydrocarbon chain. Most animal fats are saturated, while plant fats, with the exception of coconut oil and palm kernel oil, are not. Dietary saturated fat has been increasing in the average American diet over the last 100 years and is accused for many of the common chronic diseases that we face today. This video will explore how dietary saturated fatty acids can promote inflammation in the body and how this inflammation affects human health. So now I'm going to talk about saturated fat metabolism. Free saturated fatty acids can be esterified to triglycerides, which enable the transport of adipose fat and blood glucose to and from the liver. Saturated fats can catabolize into energy through lipolysis. Once removed from the glycerol backbone via lipolysis, the free saturated fatty acids travel through the blood via albumin. When inside of a cell, beta oxidation occurs, which cuts the fatty acids into acetate and coenzyme A. This forms acetyl-CoA. This acetyl-CoA condenses with oxaloacetate to form citrate, which is used for the beginning of the citric acid cycle. This is a diagram of fat metabolism, and so you can see that the free fatty acids can be esterified to triacylglycerol, and where the triacylglycerol can undergo lipolysis to form free fatty acids, then can break down further to acetyl-CoA, which can be used for the citric acid cycle. The first study that I have connecting saturated fat and inflammation is done by Stadella and colleagues. This study focused on how dietary saturated fat can influence lipotoxicity in the liver, cardiovascular, endothelial, and gut microbiota systems, as well as in insulin resistance and endoplasmic reticulum stress. The findings of this study were the three main mechanisms in which dietary saturated fat can influence cardiovascular disease is through serum lipid concentrations, systemic inflammation, and endothelial cell function. Saturated fat can also alter our gut flora by increasing energy extraction from indigestible dietary polysaccharides and elevating plasma lipopolysaccharide levels, resulting in chronic low-grade inflammation. Saturated fatty acids can be shown to have detrimental effect on multiple organ systems shown through inflammatory pathways. The second study I found linking inflammation to saturated fat was performed by Dahlman and colleagues. This study explored if changes in dietary fat could lower the risk of developing metabolic syndrome. They compared two groups of 10 patients, one with a diet rich in saturated fat stemming from animal sources, and another rich in monounsaturated fat stemming from plant sources for 8 weeks. The findings were consumption of a diet rich in saturated fats resulted in inflammation-promoting obesity-linked gene profile. A diet high in monounsaturated fatty acids rather than saturated fatty acids could prevent adipose tissue inflammation and may reduce the risk of developing inflammatory-related diseases. To conclude, saturated fat has inflammatory mechanisms throughout the important organ systems in the body, which can alter important cellular functions. Saturated fat can also influence gene expression, which leads to altered cell function. Following guidelines of saturated fat consumption to less than 10% of calorie intake is crucial. A diet high in saturated fat has potential risk on your own health status, and excessively eat at your own risk until further research is provided. Thank you.